Welcome to Insert Art. This video is proudly brought to you by ASUS, who are running a competition you can enter now. And we actually gave the theme of the competition to Alicia and Morgan. So we're gonna, in this video, demonstrate how they created their entries. They're not entering officially, but you can. Up to $100,000 worth of prizes are up for grabs in this competition, including awesome hardware for artists and creators. There's a bunch of categories: digital art, photography, animation. I am the judge, or a judge, in the digital art category. Well,
is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe. I've seen your art. No, I'm just kidding. That's so mean. So we're going to be going through the pieces Alicia and Morgan have created around the theme. The creative process is facilitated by awesome technology provided to us by ASUS, who have sent us the ZenBook Pro 16X OLED and this gorgeous Pro Art display to work with for our creations. But first, a little bit about the competition. Take it away.
Submissions are open till July 15th.
The theme is Seeing an Incredible Future, which is centered around sustainability, which reflects the importance of the environment.
Without the environment, we would be dead.
And we can't do any more art.
I know, right? So check out that link in the description and go check out the competition for yourself. There's loads up for grabs. There's nothing to lose to enter and a lot of opportunities that you can take advantage of. But the biggest opportunity you can take advantage of in entering competitions is testing yourself. Learn, try something new, and improve your art. And that is the most valuable thing you can gain as a result, is your own journey in development. So, Alicia, you start off with a bunch of cool thumbnail sketches with pretty dramatic looking perspective. What is your approach and plan when you sort of have the theme like that?
Yeah, so right off the bat, I knew I wanted to convey a sense of scale. So I wanted a really small character in the foreground against a huge, overwhelming background, just to get that sort of sense of story that there's like a wandering traveler coming to the big city of the future.
It looks like it just reminds me of like an establishing shot.
Yeah,
like
for
film
sure.
Or something.
Like a movie
Looks
you can't
fantastic.
wait to see the rest of.
Yeah,
already.
that's what I was going for.
You want the city to feel grand and overwhelming and intense.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you make it huge and this big moment that we're arriving at?
So the thing that I found the most helpful to get that sense of scale and to make it look realistic but also super exaggerated was to use 3-point perspective. With the help of perspective grids.
It looks like you're sketching out simple geometries following your 3-point perspective. And then you're sort of like cutting out bits of the buildings and then adding chunks on as well.
Yeah, because I'm primarily a character artist, I tend to really struggle with drawing buildings. I tend to really struggle with drawing buildings.
Yeah.
Especially ones that don't exist yet and that are in the future. I started off with some really basic cubes or rectangles, and I ended up just like cutting pieces out of them and adding some other random shapes just to get it looking really futuristic and
That's
really weird.
basically architecture, right?
Yeah.
It's just like,
I think
start with a cube, cut out, chuck
bits.
some clay on top.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I don't know if it's structurally sound, but it looks cool.
It's the future.
Yeah.
Anything is possible.
Gravity is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Well, we've got a floating tree and island up there. So they've figured stuff out.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with logic, just remember it because lasers.
Yes.
And that's how the future works.
Lasers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frickin' laser beams!
I added lots of like hover cars, lots of trees that are just floating in the air, an extra planet in the sky, just so it kind of looks.
You know what we need?
Like.
Let's fill that space a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah, exactly. Is it a hologram?
Yeah.
Are we on a
Yeah,
different planet?
I
Like,
love
who
that.
knows? Yeah, so once I had the sketch basically down, I wanted to add a whole bunch of textures. So I added the cloud brush, a city brush, some texture on the ground, just to really bring it to life.
I've seen the end piece, which we'll get to, and it looks incredible. And it's the sort of thing where I get why people could be intimidated from entering something like this, because you see entries like that and it just seems so overwhelming. But when you realize that it's broken down into steps, like perspective grid, blocks that you cut out of and added to for buildings, you're doing a black and white painting first. Like
work on
each
one thing at a
step
time,
is
yeah.
something you can really focus on.
Sounds like you put a lot of effort into like planning it out and plotting where everything's going to be, getting the perspective correct before you started doing anything too crazy.
Yeah.
Was that helpful to sort of like just have it all planned out and mapped out?
Yeah, and that's why thumbnails were especially helpful. because I needed the composition to be right, but I also wanted this really dramatic perspective.
I love how you got these monolithic buildings in the distance, but then you also have a skyline. So
Yeah.
it gives such huge scale that you've got skyscrapers in front of the skyscrapers.
Yeah.
Like they're huge, and then the planet and all this stuff adds this massive sense of scale, which again, you sort of mapped out in your early thumbnail sketches, which I guess is the thinking step. So by doing that step first, your thinking part early, you don't have to worry too much about that when you're adding the geometry and the pieces all together, because that's the bit you want to sort of know the direction you're going in.
I kind of wanted that central building to be a real focal point in terms of composition, so I just gave it a little bit of extra attention.
You can also see how you've created this alley of attention. So not only do you know where you want the attention to go, you're guiding it by blocking off this side with this building and giving strong perspective lines. And then same on the other side, you've got this street sign. And then the person who we're sort of seeing the view from, all of that is directing our attention in this really clear and grand way.
Yeah, it's kind of like all the foreground elements act as like a vignette
Yeah.
to draw our eyes to the center.
I just kind of have to mention this building on the left side of the screen, but it's literally got a perspective line that is directing your eye to the center of the piece where you've got your like bigger building. Did
Yeah.
you mean to do that?
Absolutely.
Of course you did.
Everything was intentional.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then finish the owl, as they say. There's, like, you're literally just slapping colour in very quickly here, and it makes it look insanely finished.
You have no idea how quick it was for me to add color. I literally did
It's
it in
absurd.
like 2 brush strokes.
That's
I did a
nuts.
blue for the sky and
Yeah.
a more like beige color for the ground. And then
It
I played.
transforms the whole thing so
I know.
quickly.
I played around with the layer modes, and in the center, it came up with this like really nice purpley sort of hue. And I immediately turned to Morgan and was like, "I'm done.
Yeah.
This is it."
It's insane how finished that looks already. It's not fair.
I know.
But the work you've done for the composition, you've really like laid all this groundwork to create these very simple steps that have resulted in something that now you can fine tune. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but at this point you will be leaning into more the details in the story and how to sort of craft it to life a bit more.
Yeah.
I like the cheeky little signs. By the way, I didn't. So now that you've got the text in there, we've set the angle, because I actually wasn't sure as to which side. Because you keep flipping.
Yeah.
Why do you keep flipping?
Flipping the canvas is an art hack to refresh your eyes and just make sure that the composition is working.
Uncanny how quickly you can spot how to fix things when you
Absolutely.
just flip it. But we've set our angle now that you're happy with all the composition, and we are on the convergence between Insert Art Street and ASUS Street.
My favorite place to be.
So you added the broad strokes of colour, like you said, in basically 2 brush strokes.
She did it so quickly.
And then it's all just sort of accent colours and just a bit of refinement.
Yes.
But it just pops so quickly.
And ASUS's world-leading display absolutely helped with that.
Okay, now we get specs that we can read out with this sort of stuff when we get to promote devices like this, which are incredible to work with. But let's be honest, it's hard for the layperson to actually understand what that means. Like when I say 99% DCI-P3, 99% Adobe RGB, and 100% sRGB coverage, sounds a bit like another language to a lot of people, but the reality is, from the experience of an artist, it means what you see is exactly what you've produced. Your experience is the most honest experience to the color that you could produce, which is really what you want when you're trying to create.
They should put that on the back of the box.
Yeah,
That was
it's,
great.
well, it's a bit more wordy, so I sort of, I get
Yeah.
it. But
And now onto the most exciting part of the artwork is doing all the nitty-gritty little details.
it's pretty exciting looking, Alicia. There's a lot happening though, layers-wise. Like it's building up very quickly.
Oh yeah, don't look at my layers tab. But Morgan suggested making the person look a little bit more futuristic, so
Yeah.
kind of gave him some prosthetics and some
Yeah.
wires and some leads just to make him look a little bit more robotic or cyborgy. And of course I added some little drones and mechs in the background, just wandering around in the streets.
The great thing about the approach you've taken with this piece in having a clear, you're looking from the character, who's the first thing you see, and then everything pulls you towards that distant city and this monolithic building. And the way you've sort of structured that allows you to be really crisp and detailed in 2 places.
Yeah.
The building and the guy. Like you can see off to the side, you've literally blurred things out and kept things really blocky to even further accentuate. I
got halfway through the artwork and I was like, why did I do so many buildings and people? Like I could have just done one. Like
But it's perfect because like even the accent blurs you've given to the signs. Like, you've done this real busy feel elsewhere. So it's like the world is spinning around this character, and you're in this moment in time between him and the thing he's looking at, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, I use the motion blur filter quite a lot in this one.
This video, but let's call it for what it is. I'm just going to be praising you guys for like 15 minutes. It's so cool.
I don't mind that.
It's stunning though. And then I've noticed, by the way, that you didn't stop flipping. I thought after you wrote the names of the streets.
Oh no,
that's
I just
like
kept.
done.
I kept going.
So it goes to show it's one of those tools that you can anchor to the whole piece.
Yeah.
But it's really come together very quickly. How do you approach wrapping it up? And then what are your feelings over the whole thing in general?
So the way that I imagine the future is it looks just like now, except it's covered in all these cool lights and beams and portals and all these really cool glowing effects.
I love the sign. Portals.
Yeah.
Come here for your portals.
It's like going to the train station, you
Yeah.
go to the portal station.
Yeah, I love that.
That's how people get around.
That's so cool.
So it was very inspired by Star Wars, I think, having cute little drones walking around, but then also
And
having these
tell me
epic
Wally
cities.
as well.
And
Yeah.
Wally, of course.
Yeah.
I drew him and I was like, I just drew Wally. And then
There's
I
another
just,
one.
I just duplicated him and added another one because I thought they were
Yeah.
really cute.
100%.
So yeah, this is what my epic future looks like.
There's something kind of Wild West about it too. Like, he shows up, not even in flip-flops, he shows up barefoot. There's an
Yeah.
earthiness about the ground. We've got trees floating. So you've incorporated the earth into this whole scene, even though it's overwhelmingly futuristic.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Was
It's-
that intentional?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. It's like this guy has sort of traveled from his hometown into the big bad city.
Is it literally Earth?
It's
looks
whatever
like
you
that.
want it to be.
I just think the color palette in general, like the blue is like really vibrant and beautiful, and like it just is like a hopeful, like optimistic piece.
Thanks. I really wanted a nice, bright, sunny day as well.
Yeah.
It's
That
nice
positivity.
too with the colours, because you said the colour was broadly done in like two colour strokes. 80% of it is this gorgeous futuristic blue, and we have this 20% of this really earthy brown and touches of green.
Yeah.
And I think that really connects the environment part of the theme while we're looking at this huge future of endless possibilities, which is really cool.
And that actually was intentional.
All of it was
All
yeah.
of it was.
You know, it's funny, we joke about like things happening by accident, but nothing happens by accident. Like, you don't accidentally guide the eye in that way and have things blurred out. In reality, you're a skilled artist who has like trained over many years, and a lot of this stuff just becomes second nature.
Yeah.
But by talking about it in this way and highlighting what you're instinctively doing as if it were much more actively thought about, it can help people entering this competition to know how they can think about it themselves and develop some of those skills.
Yeah.
I just gave you an easy out. Just take it.
That's what I was going to say.
Well done. This is so cool. Look at it.
Thank you.
Oh my God. And so color accurate.
The colours look amazing.
I know, right?
Oh my God.
All right, Morgan, your turn.
My
No
turn.
pressure, buddy. You started with color.
Yes.
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
I am predominantly focused on characters with my art, like Alicia. So I figured I'd want to have a background, some context, like a place for the character to exist in, because if we're setting a scene for a bright, lovely future, it's going to be pretty awkward if we don't have that nice, optimistic place for a character to, be moving through.
Put the environment first. I like it.
Yes, that's
Literally.
exactly-
And a very
absolutely.
similar color tone in terms of like when we think bright, beautiful future.
Yeah.
It's a lovely light blue.
I think a blue
It's
sky.
a clear sky.
It
Yeah.
says so much, and you really there's a lot of futuristic media that doesn't have that, and I think it's a very deliberate choice on their part. And that's just a sort of human nature sort of thing. If you see a blue sky, it's very calming and soothing. And I think, very obvious choice.
So with the clouds in place, you start blocking out, I'm going to guess, buildings. But what is this
Yeah.
pink thing in the distance?
I thought maybe I wanted something to anchor and pull your eye into the back of the scene to sort of convey a sense of scope and scale. The pink was just to contrast and complement the blue.
Gives the scene a nice focal point to look at.
Exactly.
I'm getting a little bit worried. Is your future flooded?
I wanted to sort of explore that idea.
Is it like a future where too much ice cap melting has happened, maybe?
Not
Has
quite.
the
Okay.
environment just overtaken
Or is this just a
all of
great
humanity?
public outdoor pool?
I think it's more of a metaphor. It's sort of like taking that like sinking, that rising water,
Yeah.
that angst and anxiety that exists around that, transplanting that into a reality that is not as like overbearingly, soul-crushingly scary.
It's
Yeah,
a really cool
thank
way
you.
to approach it. Confront the stuff people are thinking about,
Yeah.
but also talk about where we could end up that's not so bad. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Now I've
then
got-
we have robotic for people.
Yeah.
All right, where did we go from here?
So-
So you've gone from this allegory of making the future okay,
Yeah.
and now we're getting very
Added
different.
God
This is a
Yeah,
very
we're sort of.
there's less allegory in this one, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah. There's more allegory.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
let's go. Sink
So
our teeth
this
into
is
it.
sort of like they had this idea, this organic machine species that is like apart from human, but also like related to us in a way, and they sort of like inhabit this world, this like futuristic, optimistic place. So I sort of landed on a pose where the character is really big, godlike. I found this pose where they were sort of striding through the water, and I thought that was really cool because it sort of takes that sort of sunken ocean world. They're moving through the air and the water in these two worlds, inhabiting it. It's hard to explain.
I don't think you sort of have to. What I'm getting from where you're going is like,
Yeah.
you were really feeling your way through this piece.
Very much
And you
so.
wanted it was vibe first. Like,
Vibes.
literal
Yeah.
explanation is sort of, people can make with it what they
That's
want.
yeah.
But you want it to feel like the right future, but a really cool future and something
Yeah.
new and invented. Is that
Very
fair to
much
say?
so.
You were saying that you wanted to create a character that didn't cover too much of the awesome background that you created as well.
And then the background's
And
gone.
the
Yeah.
But I was going to
Yeah.
say, that's kind of cool as well because it shows that you can primarily be a character artist, have that be a part of the storytelling.
Yeah.
I also find it really interesting too that you didn't do a thumbnail sketch phase.
No.
So all of your exploration and your thinking
Yeah.
was in the artwork that you ended
Yeah.
up in. However, the way you're producing it is really loose. Like
Yeah.
you are just chopping, cutting, warping, transforming, reblocking. You're like really shamelessly cutting and tearing things apart
Yeah.
and keeping it super, super loose because you're allowing yourself to find it while the actual piece is taking shape.
That's exactly what I do every time, and it's very fun. It's almost like the canvas is a playground.
I
And
love that. Both of them are a great way to do it. Like you can start with thumbnail sketches and go through a really linear process to get to a great result. You can also go through a really organic process on the canvas and find your way there as well.
Yeah.
I think it depends how certain you are of like what you want to do. Like I think I had a very clear vision for mine, but I think Morgan was kind of just like, oh, I'm just going to see where this takes me.
Pretty
and-
much.
Now you got to explain yourself.
Yes.
What is this? Is it a monkey robot plant head?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
thought like a cybernetic like human was a cool direction, but then I wanted to sort of like get the idea of like animals and creatures into the piece somehow, and I thought making them like this humanoid ape machine hybrid with a tree growing out of their head could be just like a really cool like, and yeah, as you said, like vibes. I didn't think too hard about it. I thought aesthetically it was a cool situation.
But as soon as we're going from our thumbnail sketch to something more refined, you do
Yeah.
the same thing Alicia did.
Yep.
And there are some things that just are kind of universally useful tools.
Yeah.
Perspective grids,
Yep.
starting to block things out with a little more finesse based on a much more loose sort of representation. However, you are reposing, I think potentially following the perspective grid. You're
Yeah.
like working with that.
Absolutely.
I love this foreshortening on the hand that's just coming right at us.
Yeah, I think that really helps with scale. Using the grid is really helpful, but I think not being a slave to it as well and sort of being willing to sort of bend those like laws and rules of perspective can add a lot of like tension and drama and help with making things look really epic and giving like lots of energy to the
Yeah.
piece as well.
So cool and intense.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, like the perspective grid is there to serve you. You're not
Absolutely.
a slave to the perspective
No.
grid. The approach from here is totally reversed to how you got here. You're way more refined
Yep.
and you're doing some really clean, solid line work and very decisive sort of anatomy, robotic structures.
When I was sort of experimenting and going a bit nuts and like playing around, it's good to get all that out of the way while you're planning, and once you have somewhere to go, then you can be a bit more refined and deliberate. Doing it the other way and sort of remaining playful throughout the whole piece can get really messy really quickly. I sort of already had a really good blueprint once I had the thumbnail planned out, because that sort of like led me to just colors that worked with the palette I'd already explored, and I was sort of just making choices based on like a sort of roadmap that was already laid out for me during that planning phase.
I love that warped feel of this. Like it's hard to describe. It really
It's very
pulls me.
Morgan.
Very Morgan.
Yeah, I mean that's the best compliment of all.
And once you've done that core blocking and you bring the background back,
Yep.
and then you start tying it all together.
Yeah.
So what's your approach in this process?
The colors are sort of work to a degree. Then I start establishing lighting and sort of getting the character to appear that they exist in this environment and situation. It's got two cool things. I need to marry them together and make it all work and look consistent and lovely.
Trying to find the moment it changes, and it's hard to, because like it feels like all of a sudden it takes shape, but it doesn't. Like it does happen gradually.
Yeah.
But it all of a sudden you're just like, oh wow, like it just
Here we are.
Yeah, it just hits you. So
Yeah.
all those little pieces sort of build up, and it feels like all of a sudden, but it is a gradual process.
That's something that comes with a lot of practice, is being able to envision the destination that you're heading towards. In my head, I already had the idea of what it was going to look like and how it was going to look, and it was just a matter of working towards that goal. Yeah.
I love the combination of the painterly sort of charcoal brush and the really bold lines
Yeah.
that you
Oh,
use.
thank you. Yeah.
What line brush do you use?
Yeah.
Well, I used it's the Impact ink.
You
from
like that one,
Jazza
don't
set.
you?
It's the best
Lovely.
brush.
It's a
my
good brush.
favorite.
It's good. It's really cool to have created a brush set where like different artists find themselves drawn to different things, and to hear like, I love the Impact brush, and to see what someone does with that. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I would never have been able to do that with that brush, and it's so cool. Look at
Well,
this.
thank you.
Oh my God. This is so cool. This could be the cover of a graphic novel.
This is awesome. I love how like the vines sort of have a techie feel to them as well. Like, is it a organic vine or is it like a wire or a tube or something? It's really cool.
Maybe both.
Yeah,
Who knew?
and you could interpret this literally, or you could take it figuratively. And I think the
Exactly.
result, my interpretation of Morgan's approach to the theme is an incredible future is something really cool and really surprising.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because that's what I'm looking at, and it's awesome.
Thanks, mate. I really like to sort of be able to like explore and play and go a little bit all over the place with my process. And I think what's really helpful is being able to use like a piece of equipment or like any kind of tool that allows me to do that and doesn't inhibit my process in any way, and I can just work towards making something really epic.
There's nothing more frustrating than working with equipment if it slows you down and you know what you want to do. Which is why, obviously, working with ASUS is incredible because, well, no pun intended, they say incredible all the time. It is incredible because they put that process first. They put creativity first. They put art first in the Pro Art series, in the Creator ZenBook series, and that just translates to an experience where you can just create unrestrained.
So I loved using the ZenBook Pro. ASUS made it so easy and so enjoyable for me to finish my artwork. I literally did it in no time at all. For me, ASUS is ticking all of the boxes. It's super comfortable, it is super quick and efficient. The color is absolutely outstanding, which makes it so perfect for artists especially.
So you can take it literally, you can be figurative, you can be abstract. The most important thing is you are you have fun, you challenge yourself, and you make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Insert Art. Thank you both so much. You've done an incredible job. You get a bloody
Thank you,
applause
ASUS.
too. Thank you to ASUS for sponsoring this video, sending us these incredible tools to help us make art incredible. It's just such an honor. All the best of luck to any of you who are going to enter that competition. The details are in the description. Go get creative, and most importantly, have fun and
Don't
stretch
stress.
yourself. Don't
Please.
stress, just chill.
Please.
Have fun. Thank you so much for watching. Till
Thank you.
next time, we have an Insert Art outro.
We do.
Yeah.
Do we say it
Ins-
together?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Okay,
do.
1, 2, 3.
Insert Art.
Out. Insert out?
I was going to say insert art out.
You said insert out.
But I think they're leading into the wrong...
Is it insert out? Insert art out.
It's insert out
Insert art
because
out.
I said it wrong.
We are
and then I said it
butchering
wrong.
this.
You said
By
the
saying
wrong-
it right,
wrong-
I said it wrong.
Yeah.
Insert art out.